By the time you get them on the phone, all the marketing, all the sales, all the value building, all the benefit building, that should all be completed. How the prospect perceives the person they're speaking to is going to influence whether or not they buy. It really comes down to trust. I don't have the money right now, or I don't know if this is going to work for me, or can I get reviews and testimonials? I need to talk to my wife. I've got other priorities going on. All these standard objections that you're going to run into all have a basis in trust. So, yeah, there are methods that you can use to handle all those objections up front so that they can't use those smoke screens. But ultimately, it's going to come down to trust. And if you dig in more and more and ask more in depth questions to have them elaborate on those smokescreen objections at the end, the answers that they're going to give you will ultimately come back to a source of trust and whether or not they trust you, okay, or trust that it's going to work, trust that they're going to get their value out of the deal. So we need to use a number of different positioning tools in our marketing in order to build up the trust that people have in us in order to make the sale. Because the three things that people need to have in you to make a sale or to make a purchase with you is that they need to know of you, they need to like you, and they need to trust you in order for you to get the sale, especially with the high ticket sales. So we use three key positioning tools. Authority is the primary trust indicator. When you have authority with the person that you're speaking with on the phone, they are going to trust what you say to a higher level. And whatever comes out of your mouth, if you apply authority to it, they're going to trust it more. And they're also going to obey it. And in order to get that authority, you need to show a higher status. And those are all indicators of authority. And then lastly, a celebrity. Celebrity and authority are different. You can be an authority and not a celebrity. You can be a celebrity and not authority. But when you are an authority first and then you have a celebrity status with your authority, it essentially means that your authority is well known by many people and you're established. Because what we know about authority is that if challenged, the power of it can be destroyed. But if you have celebrity status with your authority, then the challenge on your authority, it does not damage its credibility, power, or trust. What is authority? The power or right to give orders, make decisions, and enforce obedience over another person. You've been trained since birth to believe that obedience is right and disobedience is wrong. Everything about your subconscious tells you to obey authority, listen, and trust authority. On the surface level, when people say, I don't trust authority, I don't believe in authority, they still do the opposite. The first story that we've ever been told is about Adam and Eve. Obey, and you'll live in the Garden of Eden. Disobey, and you're kicked out. So everything about our lives and what we're taught is obey your parents, obey your professors, all these people in authority positions, so much so that the government now calls themselves the authority. So what is it? What creates authority? How do we view authority? And what's its effect on sales? So number one is that authority is the legitimate power that a person consensually possesses and practice over other people. These are all items that you're going to want to implement in your marketing so that your sales calls are much easier, so that when you get on the sales calls, people recognize your authority. So number two is that obedience is easy, to disobey is to fight. People don't challenge authority. They feel that they cannot challenge authority, that it's easier to obey than it is to disobey. Number three, heuristic determines that it's authority. So you can't come out and just tell people, I'm the authority on this topic. People have to look at you, make the conclusion themselves that you are an authority. If you come out and say that you're the authority, then you've just diminished your authoritative power over the individuals. People obey authority mindlessly. They do without thinking about it. You think about all the things in a daily basis that you do without even thinking about it. You don't go through the door that says do not exit. You stop at every stop sign. Just on a daily basis, the number of times that you mindlessly obey it, it's ingrained into your subconscious to obey authority, to trust authority. Number five, we're terrible at predicting how we will respond to authority. We say that we're not going to obey. We say that we're going to stand up, and now that we're recognizing it, if anybody in authority came in to the room and told us to do something, we'd be like, no, we're not obeying, because we believe that to be true. We believe that we can resist it. But at the end of the day, in an hour, in a day, in 2 days, if authority did come in and tell you to do something, you would end up obeying it far more often than not, because to disobey the authority is the threat of fight. And so you have to be prepared to defend your own sovereignty if you're not going to obey the authority of others. So it's much harder to disobey than it is to obey. And we do so mindlessly. So our predictions on what we're going to do with authority are very contrary to what we actually do. So this is going to come out in your sales, that when you ask people things, how much money are you making right now? Where are you in life? Tell me the truth. When you have authority over somebody else, they're going to give you the proper answers. They're going to dig in deep. They won't smoke screen. They will respond more truthfully when you have that authority. And then when you tell them to do things, they will actually go do it. One of the sales tactics that we use is assigning homework to individuals when you have to carry over to a second phone call to maintain your authority from one call to the next. If you tell the person, go do it, and they don't do the homework, well, you didn't have established as much authority as you thought you did. Or when you tell somebody, here's our phone time, call me at this time, by telling them to call you, you're putting yourself in a position of authority over them. And next, when authority is challenged publicly, it loses its power. This comes back to the Stanley Milgram experiment, where after World War II, they wanted to find out why so many individuals obeyed in killing others. So during this experiment, they put the experimentees into a room with an authority figure, and then they got to meet another assumed experimentee that went into another room where they couldn't see him. They could only hear that second individual. And they were told that the second individual was being connected up to electrodes. The authority figure would tell the experimentee, ask them a question, however they respond, turn it up to 1, shock them. The experimentee would do it. They would continue to increase the severity of the shocking with every sequence of questioning until the person in the other room became unresponsive, screaming wildly when they got shocked, and eventually unresponsive. And they continued to shock them, even being unconscious. The person would have to assume that they killed this individual or knocked them out or something, but they would continue to shock them because they were being told to by authority. And they put a third individual in the room with the experimentee doing the shocking. And if that third individual ever stepped up against the authority and said, this isn't right, why are we doing this? Then the experimentee would stop shocking. So 100% of the time, if they were in the room by themselves with the authority, they would continue to shock. But if they had an individual in there that stood up and challenged the authority, they would stop shocking 100% of the times. So if your authority is challenged publicly, then it loses its power. Now, of course, there's exceptions to that rule, that if you're able to overcome that challenge simply with a single statement, then you can maintain your power. And this is important when you get into objection handling. If you attempt to justify your power, then you'll lose it. But if you're able to use the jujitsu maneuvers, that when the weight of a challenge is coming at you and you're able to quickly move aside, throw that weight to the ground and overcome it, then you can maintain your power of authority. In the same way, when you get to the objections on the phone, you need to be able to handle those with the same jujitsu kind of weight shifting. And number 7, research shows that people in authority are more respected, they're sexier, and they're more successful, to the extent that good-looking politicians get 2 to 3 times more votes. Even when those people doing the voting were asked, did you vote for that politician because they were more attractive? They will respond with very strong worded responses saying, no, I did not. So while that they're wildly opposing and conscious of this idea that no, I'm not going to make my decision based upon the authority of an individual, even though that they'll say that, they're very wrong at predicting because their subconscious is pushing them to obey and trust the authority over anything else. Even to the extent that in flight school, they will place a co-pilot into a simulator and test what the co-pilot will do when the pilot is knowingly doing something wrong. 25% of the time, the plane will crash because the co-pilot won't question the pilot's authority. And again, in the Stanley Milgram experiment, authority could get people to shock others to death 100% of the time, but not if someone else was in the room that challenged the authority. If we're trying to establish our authority so that we can have the trust on the phone call, in order to establish that, we need to show a higher status, because people will come to the conclusion as to what your authority is based upon what they see of you and experience of you, not what you tell them. So it's these higher status symbols that are experiential indicators of your status. So higher rank than that of others, especially by reason of longer service. Status is a sign of authority in the same way that soldiers are in uniform, officers have a decorated uniform, and generals receive their stars. These are all status symbols. They did another experiment where a homeless guy would go asking for change for a meter and he wouldn't receive any. But a uniformed individual would go ask for change and they would receive change 65% more often than the average closed individual would receive it. So when you're asking for money on the phone, you have a higher chance of receiving it for your program if you're in that perceived as being in that authoritative position. What are the status symbols that can indicate your level of authority? Number one is going to be your body language, acting with authority. And this is not just acting in an authoritative way, it's acting with authority. Number two is your vocal tonality. They were trying to figure out what makes a man masculine. They put this individual in a busy airport and they taped off a box around him. They say, okay, speak with a high-pitched voice and tell people to stay out of the box. And so he would, as this rush of crowd were coming at him, and he's got this box taped off around him, he would say, stay out of the box, stay out of the box, stay out of the box. And people would completely ignore him and they'd walk right through him. Matter of fact, they'd run into him. But the same guy, 120 pounds, 5'8", this scrawny little guy, deepens his voice, get out of the box, get out of the box. People would jump over the corners so as not to touch the tape even, to go around him. Number three, eye contact. Eye contact is a massive show of authority. Police officers will do this. When they pull up to your car, they're not going to turn the side of their head to you and say, can I have license registration? No, they lean right over, deep eye contact into the individual, license and registration. It's not even a question mark on the end of that question. It's give me. It's the lion and the prey. I am staring at you. I'm watching you. I see you. You are prey. I am the predator. Number four, give approval and take it away. People in authority positions give the approval. They're the one to give the certificates. They're the one to give the doctorate degree. They're also the ones to take it away. They can take away your silver medal, your gold medal, and deduct you. That's what authority is there to do. It's the judge. The judge is the one to sentence you, to give you approval or to take it away, to give you time or to take it away. So when you practice that in your regular life, giving approval and taking away, you're asserting your authority over individuals. Number five, pacing their reality. Tell them what they don't know about themselves. When we understand our prospects better than they understand themselves, and we're able to speak to their experiences and then tell them what they're going to experience, they're much more likely to come to us and see us as the authority and the expert on that topic. And therefore, they're much more likely to trust what we have to say. Next is clothing. Clothing is a status symbol. Clothing establishes authority. This is why all police officers have the same uniform. This is why, even though the TSA is not a police power, they've unified the police uniforms across the nation, and then they've given those same uniforms to the TSA in order for you to think that they're on the same level. And next, an expensive watch or accessory. Louis Vuitton wallets and nice watches and all those things. These are all the things to show I have done great things. I've experienced success. I'm doing well in my own life, and therefore you should trust what I have to say. This is why, the guys taking pictures next to their jets and their fine clothes and Lamborghinis and all of their Rolex watches and everything was popular for so long because it was a natural indicator, a heuristic indicator for people to say they must be an authority because they must be doing something right. Footwear is another indicator of this. What's on your feet is an indicator of where you go in life. Are you spending most of your time in houses and in fine areas, or are you out in the mud and the sticks? Okay, what are your shoes built for? We know that men's work boots are always dirty. They're always tattered, and it's a show of having labor. Spit shine shoes is a show of I've never had to do labor. I've never had to touch labor, which is a status symbol. Next is the technology that you use. So Mac has positioned themselves as a status symbol over Android. This is why in all of the ideal customer personas that you're going to create, you'll find that when you target a higher, more expensive demographic, they will always have Apple products. Whereas when you target a lower class or a lower income level, you will find them all using more Android heavier, open source heavier. And the vehicle that you drive. Right now, Tesla is becoming a status symbol because of the scarcity, not necessarily because of the dollar value. On the freeway, if you're driving a low value car, speed limit 70 miles an hour, you're doing 80 miles an hour in a Pinto, people will tailgate you and honk you out of their way. But if you're doing 15 miles an hour under the speed limit in a Ferrari or other nice car, they will give you the space on the road. Number 11, having strong convictions is also a status symbol. When you are unwavering in your beliefs, if you don't have confidence in what you're saying or in what you believe, how can others around you have confidence in them? Do you ever believe somebody when they come up to you and say, do as I say, not as I do? No, you want to roll your eyes. Right? You want those individuals that are eating their own dog food, right? That this is what I live out as much as I believe it. I have that strong conviction. I know what this is. That has a higher level of confidence and therefore status. And you absolutely believe in them. People will also have faith and belief in what you have to say. So having those strong convictions is an indicator of confidence in what you believe. And 12, a body by design. If you've got some slob that comes in and tries to tell you how to lift weight, you're going to look at it and question it. I'm not quite sure they've established that kind of level because they don't show it. But if they have a body, if they've got the time to spend working on their body to make themselves better, then they have achieved that level of success to where they're not laboring as much as the average person would. If your body is not taken well care of, then you haven't had the time to work on your body to show off the level of success that you have achieved. And 13, the mystery of etiquette. Those individuals that have or show a higher level of etiquette show that they have more time available to think about those things and to focus on those things. People get to see the etiquette that the higher class lives, but they don't necessarily get that time spent from their parents on themselves to show them this is how you eat properly. This is how you dress properly, how you walk properly, how you stand, how you open doors properly, how you do any of those little things. Having sprezzatura. This is that studied carelessness, not steady, but studied carelessness, especially as a characteristic for quality or style or art or literature. It's this careless, charismatic, humble, yet those things don't bother me. I don't have to worry, oh, I just crashed whatever. Oh, I just lost whatever. Oh, I didn't so much care for those things. In a humbled sense, you still want to be likable. But at the same time, if you're like, oh, my computer, I love this so much, you're not going to have receive as much credence as if it's like, oh, it's no big deal. That confidence has such a different portrayal of your person. And then next is the people that you surround yourself with. This is another high status symbol. Your level of accomplishment is associated with yours. Or you'll see these headlines of, oh, 15 average people celebrities married. Oh, how could average people actually marry celebrities? Shouldn't they just be marrying themselves? Right? It's this idea that if you're who you're hanging out with is who you're like. Okay, so celebrity. This is the third positioning tool. Now, celebrity on its own is not going to necessarily make you an authority. However, if you're an authority and you also achieve celebrity status with your authority, the state of being well known in your authority, now your authority is established. So this is what you're trying to get to. Yes, you want to have and convey that authority. Yes, you need to have those higher level of statuses. Look at this celebrity wearing average clothes, like we can't believe it. They should always be well dressed and good looking well. So you need to have those status symbols as well in order to establish your authority. But when you get to the celebrity where other people know of you, this is when you have achieved the ultimate level of authority or expertise. So celebrity status makes your authority untouchable and unbreakable. It's in this essence that if somebody challenges your authority, it's not immediately and absolutely destroyed. If nobody's heard of you before and you post something, you will have those devil's advocates out there. They will challenge your authority. Now, initially, you just ignore these things. You don't have to worry about them, and you should. You should not give them attention or validity. But when you achieve the celebrity status, and other people are well aware of what you meant and that your level of authority in that area, if you say something that then is challenged, your followers will then jump to your rescue, vindicate you, and attack the devil's advocate. That is when you become untouchable, that you don't even have to fight your own fights. Okay, how do you become this celebrity? Number one, speaking engagements. Speaking engagements are one of the best ways you can do this because they're only going to bring on A-game speakers. Now, it's not difficult for you to get a TED Talk, but for those speakers, when they actually do speak and they're recorded and they're putting on TEDx YouTube channel, they're seen at such a higher level of celebrity than just the average person. Even trade show, and they're having speakers there. The speakers are always seen at a higher level simply because they are more well known. Everybody at the event knows of them. When you're standing up there and people are seeing that others want to hear what you have to say, then you're seen as a celebrity. So you can also do this through radio or podcast where you don't necessarily have to have a live audience. You can have a virtual audience, but just getting on those podcasts or just getting on the radio and interviewed is a huge status symbol. So right now there's all kinds of websites and individuals running around. Hey, do you want to be on this podcast? Do you want to be on that? Yeah, jump on. Go get yourself out there, especially when you're to a point that you've written so much value for the people that are following you that you're able to speak very well on your interviews and not stumble or not question. So you can have that strong conviction of what you believe. And when others want to interview you, it shows that we're only going to interview the most valued people. Everybody is saying that they pay attention. They only want to have very specific people on their podcast, right? Because they want to give the highest amount of value. So if you're one of those individuals that gets to end up on the podcast, well, you're naturally going to be seen as more of a celebrity, more well-known. Writing a book is a great way to do this. This is why you'll see all of the experts. It's one of the quickest ways. You say, what's 5 ways to become an expert? Write a book. Be everywhere, in person and in essence. When you are at every event, you're there in person, or others are talking about you, or there's billboards of you outside all over town. These are ways in order to be everywhere in person and in essence. Dominating the Google search engine results is another way to be everywhere. When everybody's linking back to you saying this is the individual that's authority, um, if you want to do well in SEO, then you need to learn about authority, your authority ranking, authority domains, and all that kind of stuff. It's all about authority. And so if you can dominate the Google search engine results pages, then you are more seen as an authority, because people are going to go to Google when they end up on Problem Island, and they're going to want to research all about their problems, all about the solutions, all about your niche. And if you're everywhere, you're immediately going to be seen as the celebrity authority. Getting others to talk about you, just as if you would get backlinks to your website or get people in meetings or in events and parties talking about you. If you create a hashtag, get people to use your hashtag that's just your name or something, your personal website. Lastly, one item I didn't have on here, but your knowns. Write down your list of knowns, what you want to be known for, and perpetuate your own legend. So you always hear that, well, your legend precedes you, you're a celebrity, right? Figure out, what do you want your legend to be? What do you want to be known for? And perpetuate your own legend. The reality is that people, celebrities, are only celebrities because of their own PR. And if you want to know more about becoming a celebrity, go read the book, The Fame Formula.